Oren. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Good morning. Hope everybody's here. Thank you so much for coming from all over the world, 27 cities actually. We know it's an effort and we appreciate it. Hope you had a good night's sleep, had a good breakfast, and you're all ready for our first City Summit, Cracking the Innovation Code. By the way, we put a lot of effort into the booklet. Put it for a minute aside. Feel free, look to your right, look to your left, say shalom, introduce yourself. We don't need introduce yourself. We don't need a professional mingling for that, okay? This is what it's all about. It's all about getting new friends, exchanging ideas. This is why we're here, thinking out of the box. It's going to be a little bit squishy today. A lot of people came, so we're going to improvise on that. Find yourself on your seats. Feel like on your beach. Tel Aviv is a little bit humid, but it's always fun. I'd like on this occasion to introduce myself. My name is Hila Oren. I'm the founder and the CEO of Tel Aviv Global Administration, and we are very, very proud, my team and the municipality, to have all you guys here this morning. Just about 3 years ago, the end of the centennial year, we started feeling like a spillover. Tel Aviv has started to going global. The secret is out. And I think it's out not because we made a decision to do so. It's not a top-down sort of a strategic plan. It is bottom-up. It is due to the creative people in Tel Aviv, due to the entrepreneurial spirit, due to the innovation, due to the creative people, due to the leaders, to Mayor Oren Huldai, who takes us all in one hand, due to academic institutions like the one we're just being hosted here. Thank you, Professor Shapira, Professor Borovich, for having us here. All the time I change his name. No, but the feeling is what is important. So, to start this morning, I would like us to focus on the DNA of this city. As we said, the entrepreneurial one, the personality of the city, the non-stop, the creative. Today, 700 people are going to be here, 120 from overseas, all together because we want to find together the way we would like to crack the innovation code. Mayor Oren Huldai was elected mayor of Tel Aviv-Yafo in 1998. Ever since, he has turned Tel Aviv into an innovation miracle, the world's startup city. I would like, first of all, to give you an impression of that. Of Tel Aviv-Yafo to the stage to open the first annual City Summit Tel Aviv. Mayor Oren Huldai, please.
Don't worry. You hear me? Yes. So, as you see, I put on my pants this morning. There is a word in Yiddish, naches. This word means great pride in something that you love. I want to share with you 2 moments of naches I have this weekend. One is this conference here in this academic college that 10 years ago it was empty, deserted land. And the second, on Friday, the Wall Street Journal declared the top 3 most innovative cities in the world. New York, Medellin, and Tel Aviv. These are the most innovative cities in the world, and that's a lot better. Yes, thank you. And of course, when you have this kind of event, it's a lot of naches, as I said before. Now, we have to deal with how did Tel Aviv turn out. זה לא נוח לי פה. למה? בסדר. אני אמצא את הדרך בסוף. How did Tel Aviv turn out this way? What makes a regular city an innovation city? אולי אפשר לסדר לי פה איזה משהו? מה? זה מרוב טכנולוגיה, יש בעיה שאין פשוט דסק פשוט. תסגרי את זה ככה. בראבו. You're very, very, very innovative. Thank you. What did I tell you? So what makes a regular city an innovative city? Tel Aviv, as you know, is a small city, and I like to call it the smallest large city in the world. If you divided London 30 times, you would get Tel Aviv. And still it is one of the most important innovation cities in the world. Tel Aviv has 600 startups, R&D centers, and multinational technology companies. So the question is, how did this happen? First, you need an attractive city. Second, the municipality needs to provide platforms for innovation. Third, and most importantly, as usual and always, the people. And let's start with the city. Some people love our beach, some people love our weather, and some focus on our human resources. So when the city has basic qualities, your job as a mayor is easier. But beaches are not enough. It is the people who live by these beaches that makes the city innovative. Tel Aviv connection to innovation and startup culture began on the day the city was born. Actually, Tel Aviv is a startup by itself. It was founded 103 years ago when 66 families of entrepreneurs decided to build a city near the beach. They dreamed of a garden city in a place that had no water. They dreamed of a city of the future in the homeland of the past. It was classic startup, big dreams, but small chances. Surprisingly and luckily, they succeeded. The founder of Tel Aviv were just like a Tel Avivian entrepreneurs today. They had a vision and were not afraid of obstacles. Tel Aviv startup character explains how this city developed. Only innovators could beat a national theater before there was a nation. Only innovators could open a museum in the mayor's living room. And only innovators could decide to speak a language that had been dead for 2,000 years. They built a school called Herzliya Hebrew Gymnasium, which they named after the Theodor Herzl, the founder of the national movement. Everyone in this school had to teach and study in Hebrew. Soon, everybody followed. My friend, as you can see, I love my city. I was born here, but I have innovation in my blood. My parents created one of Israel's most important startups, the kibbutz. They were pioneers. They built a collective farm and were teachers. As a young man, I enlisted to the Air Force. I served 26 years as a combat pilot and always wanted to follow the footsteps of my parents. When I retired as Brigadier General, I turned to the public education and asked to be a teacher. But I did not have qualifications to be a teacher, so what do? In a city of innovators, when you are not good enough to be a teacher, they make me as a headmaster of the school. And what was the school? That's right, the Herzliya Hebrew Gymnasium. After 6 years at the school, I decided to run for a mayor. In a way, the mayor of Tel Aviv is like director of world's largest startup. Like in startup, we put main focus on diversity and pluralism. And we create platforms for these diverse people to create. So when some young Tel Avivian asked to put a huge duck above my office, we said, yes. When others asked to paint our water leads, we said, why not? When it got too hot this summer, we put a huge fan in our main square. And now that it's cool, our residents are making sweaters for the trees. Innovation is also a part of the municipality's work. When we have urban challenges, we use innovation to solve them. For example, 10 years ago, this city was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. We needed to find a way to renovate hundreds of buildings, in the matter of fact, thousands of buildings, without creating an urban or municipal budget, the burden on the municipal budget. So we came up with financial incentives for property owners. Many cities around the world have incentives, but ours are unique. In Tel Aviv, you can buy and sell these incentives. We created a totally new urban marketplace, a marketplace of virtual incentives, and this is innovation. Another example of our northern part, which is currently empty. When we sat down to plan this area, we realized that our city center works well. So we said to ourselves, why invent something new? We'll just duplicate what already works. So we are creating a second Tel Aviv based on plans that were drawn 80 years ago. Here is the final example. In this country, we lack efficient public transportation. The roads are packed, so we decided to create another level of transportation using a system that was developed by NASA. Soon, we will start testing air cars on electric poles, and this is innovation. Our innovative policies encourage the lifestyle of young people. As a result, Tel Aviv is a city that young people come to for fun. We have 1,748 pubs and bars, one for every 200 residents. But more importantly, it is a city that young people want to live in. In the last 14 years, the number of young people in Tel Aviv doubled. Today, 1 of every 3 Tel Avivians is between the age of 18 and 35. This is dramatic. This is our secret. Today, we are setting an ambitious goal. We want to leverage our ecosystem to become a Silicon Valley, not only for Israelis, but for people from around the world. We are leading a process with the government to create startup visas. We want to see international entrepreneurs starting their company in Tel Aviv. A second campaign is to double the number of international students studying in Tel Aviv area. We are working with the local tech community to make their work easier. More working spaces, more conferences, more events. So, as I said before, it is a city. If the city is fun and the municipality does not interfere, the innovative people will come. So, to conclude, we welcome you to be part of our vision. And if I may conclude with a small request, go into the Wall Street Journal's website. Vote for Tel Aviv as the #1 innovative city in the world. And don't tell Mayor Bloomberg that I asked. Thank you.
Huldai, for your presentation. My name is Eitan Schwartz. I am the Mayor's Advisor for International Affairs, and welcome again to this beautiful venue. The next two speakers are very special guests who have come specifically for this conference. The first one will be Mr. Scott Siff. Mr. Siff is the CEO of BAV, a very, very, very innovative and important company that does research about brands. He will explain all about this and about the incredible positioning that Tel Aviv has been experiencing globally over the past few years. He will be followed by Dr. Dieter Solomon, the mayor of Freiburg, who will also present a different perspective on innovation in cities. So, Mr. Siff, welcome.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be here, especially to be speaking right after one of the world's now legendary mayors. I'm very proud to be here. I run a company called VAV Consulting, and we happen to have the biggest database in the world on brands. We have 50,000 brands, including companies mostly, but cities, countries, people, and so it's a giant treasure trove of data, and we're always mining that data to figure out what's going on. Over the last few years, we've been noticing, because of some of our clients, that trust in financial brands was going down. Not hugely unexpected, although the size of the decline has been amazing, and also the length of time it's been going on. You can see that it started in the first Bush recession. We had a drop of about 60% in trust of financial brands, the major multinational banks. And we had about another 60% over the last recession, the second Bush recession. But we also figured, well, we better look and see if this is a bigger issue. Like, is this just the financial brands that are having this problem, just the big banks? And we found out that, in fact, no, this was a problem that was affecting all of the sectors of brands across the brandscape. And in fact, if you look at the last few years, the number of brands that are trusted has fallen in half, from 49% to 25%, which is a precipitous decline, and this really has reshaped the entire brandscape. It's changed the way that people relate to brands, relate to companies, relate to products. There's an entire new consumer that's evolving, and so we were trying to figure out, well, what's going on here? It's more than, we saw that it's more than just these recessions, and what does it mean? What does it mean more broadly? At the same time, we found, well, maybe trust isn't that important, but in fact, we found the opposite in our data. That in fact, in recent years, trust has become twice as important, almost, as it has been in previous years. Partly because it's in such short supply that if you are trusted as a brand, it's even more important to you than it was before. And because our model is tied to financial returns, we also see that trusted brands, the top performing trusted brands, are outperforming the overall stock market by almost 6x. So if you are managing to grow trust at the moment in this collapsing trust environment, your financial returns compared to the stock market will be way outsized. So trust is collapsing, yet trust is more important at the same time. So we looked and tried to figure out, okay, well, maybe it's not just financial brands. Maybe it's just not all brands entirely. Is it a bigger problem than that? Is there a bigger consumer, bigger human reshaping that's going on? So we're looking at 13 countries here, and these are averages across 13 countries. And we saw, first of all, that the collapse in trust in corporations was a collapse in trust in large institutions generally. 86% said that there's too much power in the hands of large institutions and corporations. Beyond that, there's just a general collapse in trust in governments. People think that governments no longer care about them by 76%. Is the world becoming more fair? We're seeing all these revolutions, people marching in the streets. You know, in theory, there's lots of progress around. But in fact, across 13 countries, representing almost 80% of global GDP, people say the world is becoming less fair by 3/4. And what that has done is it's completely overturned the normal perception of progress in the world. In the US, we have this idea of what's called the American dream, which usually has two components. One is that if you work hard, you'll get ahead. And the second is that the world will be better for your children than it is for you. People no longer believe that. These numbers are actually much worse in the U.S., but overall, globally, 51% say the world is going to be not as good for their children as it has been for them, and even better for their parents. So what's going on? So we wanted to figure out where all these problems were. We scanned our data, we went through it, and we looked to figure out where all the numbers were coalescing. Where was the source of this collapse in trust and this huge disillusionment that's affecting the entire global, the global consumer and voter patterns of thinking? And we finally found the answer. The numbers started coalescing around a couple of important numbers in particular. The first one, which was a shock to us, and it gets more interesting, is that 57% of people around the world said that they're dissatisfied with the conduct of men in their country. And that number was interesting because more than half of men globally said they're disappointed with the conduct of men in their country. And you can see that some of the countries are particularly interesting. These numbers, the bars, the green bars are the overall population. The middle bar is the men in the countries. And the pink bars on the right are the millennials, so the young people. So you can see in a number of countries, the numbers are more pronounced among young people. And then when we asked people, do they think that men should be behave more like women or women more like men, we found that the numbers were 2/3 in favor of men behaving more like women. So this is an interesting theory. I mean, what does that mean? And so we wanted to explore that. There's a very interesting headline finding, but we wanted to get behind that number. So we went back into the field on a massive survey. We talked to 64,000 people in 13 countries all over the world to figure out what does it mean that people want men to behave more like women. We split the sample of 64,000 people into two groups. The first group of 32,000, we ran through a battery of 125 adjectives, of attributes, and asked whether those attributes were more male or more female. And so we were able then to split these human characteristics into three groups, male, female, and sort of in the middle. Then we took the other half of the sample, the other 32,000 people, and we asked them on the issues of leadership, success, morality, which we call the four virtues, which of those traits that we now knew were male and female, which of those traits better predicted each of those, what we call these four virtues. And here's what we found. When you looked at leadership, what you'll see here is the higher up vertically you are, the more this correlates, the more these predict leadership. The more people are looking for those particular traits in leaders. And as you go from the far left is more masculine adjectives to the far right is the more feminine adjectives. And you can see that there's a positive slope to the line. So on leadership, you can see that people, the more feminine of the adjectives were the ones that were most looked for in leaders. And you can sort of just tie back to what we talked about at the beginning. You can look at some of these. The highest predicting ones like expressive, flexible, are those ones that you think of as characterizing your boss and your country's leaders today? I think the answer in general is probably not. You get the more on the male side of analytical, independent, and proud. And so we see that these are working in the opposite direction. I can say coming out of the throes of $2 billion of advertising in the American presidential election, we know which side of the ledger our candidates are on at the moment for the most part. More interesting, when you look at morality, so what is a moral person? Same line, you'll notice the slope now is a little steeper, which means that the feminine virtues, the feminine attitudes and values are even more predictive of what people are looking for in what they consider to be moral. Again, at the far right, in the top, you see loyal, sympathetic, empathetic, patient, selfless. Those are the traits that they think of as moral. The other interesting thing about this line is that the left side, where the male traits are actually negatively predicted. Same on happiness. Again, the slope gets even sharper there, more predictive female virtues of what is called happiness. Now, just to think of whether this is irrelevant or not, we looked at the countries that are the most balanced on these virtues, and it turns out that they rated their countries on the same adjectives. The more balanced the countries were, the higher their GDP per capita was. Very interesting. The ones that have the most balanced male-female virtues. And maybe more importantly, perhaps, is that on the Gallup Quality of Life Index, the more female they were, the higher their quality of life, their sort of higher collective happiness they were. So what does that mean? There are sort of a few lessons to take away. The first is being practical is more important than sticking to your ideologies. People are tired of people just sticking to ideologies in the face of getting something done. They want people to be practical. Second, it'd be nice if there were more women in leadership positions. They want to see a more balanced look to their government, more balanced look to their corporations. They want to hear that the government are listening to people rather than just talking at people. So they want a dialogue. They want an interactive government. Everybody's interactive in everything they do in social media. They want their government to behave the same way. And they want the government to stop looking just at economic indicators. There's a broader bucket of indicators that they want them to focus on. 80% think that happiness is a more important measure of success than just money. And the last one, sort of your charge for the day, is that there's a general perception that the local governments are better able to solve problems than the national governments, that they're more in touch with the local needs, and they tend to have a more balanced approach to solving problems. And so now I sort of give that to you to solve for the rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Scott.